didn't have mobiles. Well, maybe the directors of the company had big clunky mobiles. We didn't use email. We actually faxed out press releases and put press releases in the post. So coming from quite a different environment. So I come from an agency background, and I've worked at quite a lot of big agencies: Hill & Knowlton, Burson, Weber, Ketchum. So have worked in quite a lot of agencies, both on a permanent and contract basis. Because what happened to me, I kind of got to associate director level and thought, right, this is as far as I want to go. I don't want to continue that journey to the top. And I think that's one of the things about certainly working in agency. It does feel like the only way to go is up, really. It's quite competitive, and it doesn't seem to be a career that you can kind of find your level and rest there. There is a huge amount of pressure to keep on going. And I think that when you have a family, that drive and that compulsion to continue working to the top can fade away for some people. One of the other sort of challenges that I came up against as well when I first started freelancing for myself was that I'm a consumer generalist, and I guess a lot of people working in PR do go into quite specific sector specialisms, and that makes it a lot easier to freelance and take on your own clients. But for me, because I had worked on a broad variety of clients, and actually a lot of bigger brands doing kind of brand building PR, as opposed to, you know, being a publicist, doing a lot of kind of day-to-day media relations, building up those journalist contacts. That was another challenge for me in sort of building a sort of strong PR freelance career. So when my first child was in 2008, I was still in London, and it was around when I went on maternity leave. It was kind of also around the time that social media was really taking off, and people and brands were starting to use social media as a marketing channel. So I really felt that I'd missed the boat to some degree, and sort of getting on board and learning to use social media in a professional sense. And another challenge, major challenge that I was having is that issue of London childcare versus being able to go out there and get contract work. Because I didn't have a permanent job to go back to, I had been doing kind of, 6-month contracts at various agencies. So obviously, it's a competitive market, the childcare market. You need to kind of go on a wait list to get a nursery place, blah, blah. You need the nursery place to go and get a contract, but you need a contract to afford the nursery place. So that was a real sort of barrier that my husband and I were facing as well. So we then, my husband works in PR as well in another sector, and so he also made the decision that he wanted to go freelance. So we set up a virtual agency. At this stage, started working directly with our own clients as opposed to being in agencies working with their clients. And it was around this time as well we said goodbye to London and moved down to the South Coast. So one of the issues, it's kind of issues, that were making kind of working in PR in traditional sense much harder, was the job market. I mean, certainly working in PR agency is a very London-centric career, and yes, there are agencies outside London, but not very many, not as many certainly, and salaries are considerably lower. So freelancing was the best route for us, and that was working fine, and I was doing projects, etc. But I kind of really felt that in my career development hadn't moved on, and I was kind of really sort of relying on the knowledge that I had built up in my kind of, last contracts, etc. So it was quite fitting, actually, the way I came across Digital Mums, and it wasn't an ad that, that was served up to me on social media at all. It was a very nice traditional piece of PR that Digital Mums had placed in my mother-in-law's Creamer magazine. It was a nice case study of one of the Digital Mums graduates, and it just kind of felt like a no-brainer to me. It made absolute sense. It ticked so many boxes for me. So I kind of made contact and went through the sort of recruitment process, and found myself starting at the end of 2015. So it was really exciting, actually. I put off starting, but I think I could have started a bit earlier. And actually, I kind of regretted that and wish I had just sort of got on with it. So I was really looking forward to starting. And so, as Richard said, the studying is practical from, you get your client, not on day one, but pretty much pretty soon after. I was sort of slightly unusual, and I know that Richard said a lot of people, they never meet their client, etc. But I kind of my client almost came with me because I was talking to a friend about digital mums, um, who works for an early years music group, and they were like, hang on, we want a digital mum, and got in touch with digital mums and said, oh, can we have a digital mum? Can we have Karen? And kind of it worked like that. So it was great. It is sort of overwhelming. It can be overwhelming, especially if, like, I'm sure a lot of people, most people probably have a sneaky peek, at the modules, beyond the week they're working on. And actually, when I was doing it, digital mums are really quite good in not actually releasing all the content to stop kind of getting overwhelmed and panicked. So, it's very nicely structured. It feels like, oh my God, you've got a client. Oh gosh, but actually the client or the program partner, they know that you're a trainee. They don't expect you to be a kind of fully fledged social media marketeer. So that's really worthwhile bearing in mind. And you have to really remind yourself of that, I think. And I think really the fact that you've got a peer group, I don't think, it would be, quite a different course if that peer group wasn't there. So your peer group is a group of other trainee digital mums, and they can come from quite different backgrounds to you, and that's a real benefit because I think in my peer group there was a photographer, there was a sort of more broader kind of marketeer with some, more digital marketing background than the rest of us, and there was a picture editor, a business publication. So there's a really nice kind of mix of experience, which I think is really important because there certainly are areas that, I think that speaking to most people, there were probably some areas that, you would find harder than others. So, from my background, actually, I found the kind of the strategy and the proposal writing okay because that was what I was used to working, producing in my career today. But there are other people who hadn't really had to do that in their job, and so that was a real challenge of just sort of structuring a proposal. But there were areas for me, for example, kind of create, starting. The course doesn't really cover a lot of content creation, but it teaches you, about images and how to create good images and things like that. But that was an issue, that was where I haven't got a lot of experience. And so other people were able to lend support on that. So it's really, really important. I think most kind of peer groups tend to just be on a WhatsApp group or a continuous Google Hangout, and there's constant sort of like asking questions, and it's really supportive. And there was by no means any sense of competition or anything like that. And there's no set times, that you have to log in and attend a tutorial or anything like that. You can totally take it in your own time. For example, I think that one of the women that when I was studying, she was actually on maternity leave, and it worked for her to do some work at 4 a.m. in the morning when her baby was awake. Whereas my children are older and they're at school, so I could follow a more kind of, traditional sort of daytime work. And so a lot of people do a lot of evening work. One of the girls was still working as a picture editor, so she really did have to fit it around a not necessarily a full-time job, but I think a 4-day week job. So there are very, very different patterns to approaching it. But it is remote. You don't have to attend anything. It just fits around your own family's life. So I find it hard to kind of find anything too negative to say about it, to be honest. So Richard sort of touched on this a bit, and about why working in PR, could point towards you being, a really good, strong social media manager. You're great at managing clients. Everybody Even if you work in-house, there are other, parties that you work with. But so, you've already got those skills. You're used to doing media relations. I'm sure most people would. That now kind of, goes over into blogger relations, and there's a lot of the skills you need. There's some of the same people that, if you're a social media manager, you will be reaching out to on your social media channels. So, and as Richard said, you can take that beyond just the social media side of it. If you think your client would benefit from, an actual blogger outreach campaign or something like that, that's something that you can upsell to them. Brilliant at riding the news agenda. I mean, that's all sort of part and parcel of PR, isn't it? It's identifying kind of hooks and trends that you can respond to, whether it's just creating like one piece of content, or a statement, or a comment, or a whole campaign. That's how a PR person's mind is trained to work. Confident at planning and strategy. You've got a real head start there, because there are some people that won't be used to doing that in their previous careers. Great at coming up with creative ideas. I mean, constant brainstorming within certainly within PR agencies, to come up with great, different campaigns and ideas. And I guess it's easy to, a lot of people might think that PR people it's just about writing. It's not. It goes beyond there. So, your brains are already used to creating some great content, which is key really for social media management. And being used to multitasking, going the extra mile. And I kind of don't mean over servicing your clients, or kind of, doing too much work. I mean about sort of like, just trying to think of, thinking a bit outside the box, and trying to think of, another, the next great innovative idea. So, your brain is already sort of thinking in that way. So in terms of my life after Digital Mums, so I still do some PR projects, but at the moment I am mainly focused on my social media work. So as Richard said, I'm a social media consultant at Octopus Energy, which is a fast-growing energy company. So my role has evolved here since I started working with them about 10 months ago. And when I first started working with them, I was kind of doing, a variety of community management. As you would imagine, with an energy company, there's a lot of customer service on their social media channels, but also created some content and scheduling and posting, as you would expect. But a lot more day-to-day work. Recently, they have taken on a full-time community manager, and I'm working as a strategic social media consultant. So some people don't, as Richard said, you can work remotely with clients, and some people never meet your clients. I actually, with this client, is more of a kind of a working pattern that perhaps I'm more used to, in old agency life. But I don't go and sit in their offices. I do work remotely. I use Slack, and so day to day. But I do meet up with them quite regularly, once a month, which is, doesn't sound that regularly, but some people, as I say, don't actually ever meet them. I'm also continuing working with my program partner. So it's two very sort of diverse, different businesses. So my program partner is an early years music and movement group, a small business, and I, work directly with the business owner there and do a bit of sort of everything, general marketing. So yeah, work is good, and I am really enjoying the social media side to some extent, but I actually am focused on that at the moment. I can combine it with PR projects, and if a lead comes in for PR work, then I can also offer the social media side as well. I mean, in terms of finding work, Richard's mentioned the course, Find the Hustle course, and although I didn't have access to that when I graduated, as a graduate, we had, we were able to have access to that sort of down the line. So I have seen that, but I think that there are concerns, I think, from people when, thinking about doing the program, oh, will I find work? How will I find work? I got this Octopus Energy role via Digital Mums, and there are jobs come up and they're posted in the Facebook group, the alumni Facebook group. There's a lot of work found via the DM Collective, which is the alumni group. People recommend people all the time if they just haven't got capacity, if it's not their specialism. They just, or actually they've been working with their client for a little while and they think, well, actually, I need, we need a fresh pair of eyes. There are job sites dedicated to flexible work. And also, I think that PR people, probably have quite a strong professional network because it's quite usual to move agencies, every few years. So, in my experience, I think that PR people build up kind of strong professional and personal networks as well. So it's just about chatting to people. And I think some of the places that Digital Mums say that they have got clients is quite funny, just yoga or, there'd be a group or just chatting to friends and there's, a friend will say, oh yeah, I've got a friend who owns a business. That would be brilliant. So I think it's just a case of getting out there and chatting to people and telling them what you do. I think it's like whenever I've told anybody about Digital Mums, nobody's turned around to me and said, well, that's not a very good idea. Everybody is always like, oh, that sounds great. So it seems to work for everybody. And also Richard sort of talked about the DM Collective, which is the alumni group. Yeah, I think I would probably pay as a freelancer, I will probably pay a fee for this alone. So yeah, when you graduate, you get access to the Facebook group, closed Facebook group, and it's fab because it's not just support. People go in there and have a virtual rant, a virtual cry. That does happen, and you will instantly get virtual kind of hug, morale boosts, and things like that, which is a lone freelancer is a real kind of struggle sometimes. If you don't have somebody to kind of talk to about your successes and your challenges. So it's invaluable. I think there is not a sense of competitiveness, which you would think that maybe would come from a lot of women all doing the same job, but there's never that. There's never any sense of, you can ask really any question because you don't have to prove yourself because you've already proved yourself by doing the course. So everybody knows that you've got kind of, some really pretty good skills and experience. So, and nobody expects you to know everything about every element of social media. But also as well, there's a lot of women with like all these different eclectic specialisms as well. And your learning won't stop with the course. Your career development, this is a really important part of your continued career development, because, for example, there's one of the Digital Mums at the moment and she loves video. And there's there's quite a few Digital Mums who don't know the first thing about video. And so she's just like, oh, okay, I'm going to do a 28-week video challenge. We're not paying her. She just thinks it would be fab to, for this collective learning process. And, or, even paid for courses. If somebody said, oh, I've done this, additional course on video or photography through Instagram, it's recommendations and things like that. So it's a real opportunity to continue with your career development as well. So, and this last point as well is where can Digital Mums take you? There's not just one career path with it. It doesn't mean that, you've done this course, you will become a social media manager or you will become a social media manager and a PR consultant. You can take, because, there's some women that have done the course, but there's one lady who's sticking with sort of like web development. There were some women go back into full-time jobs, but it's enhanced their kind of confidence and skills. And so, I think it enables you to kind of take your career, in a direction that you want to, and it gives you that control. So yeah, I'm I'm a great advocate, and I think I haven't met anyone that's not really. So yeah. So over to you guys. I don't know whether anybody's got any questions.
Oh, great. Well, thanks very much, Karen. Yeah, so if anyone has any questions, feel free to just type them in the chat. I mean, I'll kick things off. Um, I know something that people are always interested in when they're kind of feeling out whether the course is for them is kind of knowing exactly how you kind of split your work. So on a weekly basis, what's approximately your split between Octopus Energy and then your early years work, and then kind of anything additional that comes on top of that?
Oh, okay. So I work around, on average, probably about 20 hours a week. Um, so yeah, I do most of that. So about 12 hours a week for um, Octopus Energy, and the remainder for my early years client, plus just sort of some general kind of learning, um, that kind of thing. So as I said earlier, my kids are at school, so I work a sort of short day every day. I'm not to say every day actually. Um, I quite often sort of, I don't completely take Friday off, but I just have a quieter day. I just do a kind of bare minimum on Friday. So, but within that, I can go to the hairdressers, I can go and do other things. So, you know, yeah, today I had, went and did. I went to the supermarket. So you can do these things. You can get on with your life admin as well, which is brilliant because you're not having to kind of just do it or try and squeeze it in on Saturday and drag the kids around the shops and do all that kind of thing. Um, so yeah, so Ali, you've asked, were you doing freelance work? Yes, I was actually. I was doing some, and there were definitely times when I was doing projects that it felt like whoa. Um, but I guess I never quite took on too much, as it were, and in times I guess where I had to prioritize the paid for work. That's when I was studying and I had to do it in the evening. Um, so yeah, I've never had a real issue. Obviously, there's busier times, and certainly I think probably one of the things you need to do working for yourself directly with clients is being quite strict about your kind of time management and not over servicing clients, because I think a lot of women when a lot of the digital mums, perhaps when they have graduated and they get their first clients, there is this sense of like, well, hey, yay, brilliant, amazing. I just want to be brilliant for them. And so you really do have to discipline, not to, try to overprove yourself or by over servicing. So, you do have to be strict with yourself and manage your time.
Just to add to that, I would say, during the training itself, it is as Karen kind of spoke about, with her kind of, the lady on the peer group who was working at 4 a.m. I mean, it is pretty flexible in terms of how you do it. You will have a kind of weekly assignment that you have to do, and you'll have a weekly chat with your program partner, which is the real business that you're matched with. And you'll have a video chat with your peer group, which you'll do at kind of similar time to this, kind of midweek, 8:30ish, that sort of time. Other than that, so that adds up to maybe like an hour, half an hour for the chat with your client. It's pretty much how you want to structure your week around it for the most part. So I think the way to fit it all in is just the same way you'd fit anything in. You just have to be really kind of good with your time management. You have to know when are the times that work for you to kind of get your head down and put some work in. Karen has school age children, so she has different times than somebody who's on maternity leave or has got younger children, or even secondary school age children. That kind of changes things slightly as well. So I think you just have to know your own kind of timetable and how you're going to kind of sort things out. So some of our students will kind of block out 2 days, get childcare, and just blast through it on those days. Where others know that between nap time, that's when they can get 2 hours every day, so they do it every day for 2 hours. So I think it's just about your own kind of time management skills and kind of understanding where your freelance would need to fit in, and what the priorities are there, and then fitting in things on a day-by-day basis each week. Great. So Karen, Navdeep asked, can you please talk a little bit about the clients that trainees are partnered with, size, sector, etc. Are they looking to hire? So, I mean, one, I'd take this and I'll throw it to you for your personal experience from your peer group. So generally, for us, they really vary in terms of the types of program partners we get. You know, we really try and get as many different types as possible. The kind of main criteria that we ask for is not necessarily a specific sector or anything like that. It's more that they are going to give the right kind of nurturing, supportive environment for our students, and that they aren't too big or too tiny. You know, they have to be a kind of nice match in kind of terms of, it's not just somebody who had an idea and doesn't have a website, you know, but they're not, you know, they haven't got a huge comms team already where you're kind of having to fit around that. So it's generally small businesses. Size and sectors do vary. We get a lot of charities and social enterprises because we're kind of socially focused business ourselves. We get a lot of mum businesses, as you could imagine. We do get some B stuff, but it's mostly B2C. And are they looking to hire? It really depends. You know, again, we don't recruit them on the basis that they're going to hire. We recruit them on the basis that they're going to give you a really great training experience. And then if they hire you, brilliant. That is, you know, the kind of perfect fit. But if they don't, it's not a big deal either, because, you know, the whole point is that they were there to give you a kind of direct, actual experience of being a social media marketer, which means that when you finish, you'll have all the skills from working with them, and then you can do the hustle course and use the Data Collective and your own network to leverage finding paying clients after that. And what we always say as well is that you know, getting your program partner hiring you is great, but ultimately, if you're going to build a successful freelance career, at some point you're going to have to find clients. So it's good to build those skills early on to know how to hustle and find clients, because that's definitely not really something social media specific. That's a key skill that as a freelancer you need to develop if you're going to, you know, sustain your career for, you know, 2, 3, 5, 10 years. So yeah, I'll throw it over to you, Karen, for your kind of, you know, what were some of the businesses that were, you know?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, that I worked with an early years business. One of the other, I'm just trying to think back to my peer group. Yeah, there seemed to be quite a lot of early years businesses. I think that one of the, is my sound okay?
Yeah, perfect.
Oh, sorry, it was echoing back. Another of the women that I worked with, she had like a nappy bag, a high-end nappy bag business. There was a jewelry designer, a children's theatre company. So quite a nice sort of mix. But as Richard said, they weren't big in that you know, a client, saying you working with a client in a sort of job role that is new to you does sound quite scary, but you know, bear in mind that you're not reporting into a marketing manager. You know, you are probably going to be reporting into a business owner who probably, you know, knows far less about marketing and probably, you know, less about social media than you do. So it's certainly not as daunting as it sounds. There's another question about Zena about time. Managing the time that you're online. There's something that you learn about is the use of sort of scheduling tools like Buffer and Hootsuite and things like that, and planning your content. And an awful lot of your work can be done, you know, pre-scheduling content. But obviously, yeah, there are times that you do actually have to be online. You know, you need to be online probably daily, kind of engaging on your social media channels. But I think that probably goes back to what Richard was saying, the type of business and the size of the business that you're matched with. But it can become a real problem. And this is actually something that I experienced with Octopus Energy, because it grew when I first started working with them as a sort of smaller business. And as the company has grown very fast, those community management and client and customer servicing issues did become a problem. So I think it's up to you as a consultant to kind of identify those issues and recognise those issues, and not be pushed into being expected to be online 24/7 because you're not being paid for it, and you physically can't be. So I think it's about coming to an agreement with a client, and yeah, if there are issues, flagging it up. If it is a very kind of customer service heavy account. But I think generally, with the types of businesses, the size of the businesses that Digital Mums are working with, there's not an expectation to be online 24/7 or kind of even 9 to 5. So, yeah, I hope that answers that.
Just to, do you want to turn your sound off, Karen, just for a sec to avoid the echo? I'll just elaborate on that. Yeah, so it's a kind of a key part of the training, what we actually teach our students. Because obviously, you're completely right, Dana. It's a really good question, actually. Like, it can be one of those, how long is a piece of string? Social media, you can do an infinite amount. There's never a fixed amount, but ultimately, as freelancer getting paid for a certain amount of work, you have to learn how to push back with clients, but also you need to learn how to manage your own time. So what we generally say is, scheduling tools are your friend. So what you'll do for the bulk of your posts for the week, rather than posting them kind of in real time so that you're on a daily basis kind of typing it in, you actually might, on a Sunday or a Monday, you might block out 4 hours and you might do your entire week scheduling. So that then means that you don't have to go on every day and post. Obviously, there's a certain amount of real-time kind of action that social media necessitates, but you can actually do a bulk of your main work in a single period because of scheduling tools like Buffer. Obviously, you need to be able to engage with people on a daily basis, but again, that's, obviously you can do that on your phone. So we have some students that kind of don't mind doing it kind of in real drips and drabs on their phone because it doesn't really feel like working. They might be doing it as they're dropping the kids off at school or whatever, or just, we're going for a coffee, whereas others might block it into, you don't want people waiting, 48 hours or anything like that. But at the same time, unless you're a massive brand like Tesco's or maybe even Octopus Energy, you don't need to get back to people within 30 minutes. It depends on the size of your business. So if you're a relatively small business, if you get back to somebody in 4 hours, that's fine. And if they get in touch with you after 5 p.m., it's not the end of the world if you get in touch with them the following day. Obviously, if you have a brand that says that you need to, then that might be different. But then that's a sort of brand that will probably have a community manager. For example, us at for our case specifically at Digital Mums, we found that initially we had our social media manager doing our community management, but then it was getting too much. So what she said was, there's not enough time to actually focus on the kind of strategic stuff, the influencer stuff, because I'm just spending all day engaging. So what we did was we then hired a community manager to help kind of handle that side so that the social media manager could focus more on kind of the scheduling, the strategy, the influencer outreach, similar to what Karen's doing for Octopus Energy. They hired a community manager. So I think it's about managing your time. It's about the fact that usually you're going to be working with a small business, so you don't necessarily need to get back to somebody immediately. You can wait a few hours, so you can kind of plan out your day around that. You might do half an hour chunk at 9 a.m., then another at 1 p.m., then another at 5 p.m. And then that's your engagement done for the day, and then you switch off till the following night. So it really, it kind of depends client to client, but also, you can manage that yourself with your own schedule, I think, as well. All right, great. You can turn the sound on, Karen, again. Great. So I've got another question for you, Karen. This might be more of a kind of a sense rather than a direct answer, but after graduating, how competitive have you found you or your peer group to be on the job market compared to other social media managers?
Sorry, how
competitive have you found yourself and your peer group and the other kind of graduates on the job market? Because I know that is a fear that some people have. Obviously, they want to know that they're going to be in a position where they can find work. So have you got a sense from the clients you've worked with or from other clients digital moms have worked with about how competitive they are in comparison to other social media marketers?
In terms of what we can offer, or in terms of, you know, I don't understand. You mean in the way, the price point, or?
Yeah. I suppose just how kind of competitive, not just as price point, but I guess in how kind of specific the service offer have been appreciated. Whether you found that there's a quick turnaround, or clients taking on digital mums for months in longer contracts. Are they finding in good compared to other
Yeah.
social media managers?
Well, it's difficult to answer that question in some ways, because I've been with both of my clients. Well, I've been with, the early years business, who was my program partner, and I've continued. I did have a break, but then they came back to me when they found additional budget. So I guess that sort of answers the question, in that they found value in it beyond it being, a digital mum being a cheap option to manage their social media. So they were then happy to then go on to pay, the monthly retainer, which they now do. And again, with Octopus Energy, I have been with them kind of coming on for 10 months now. And so, they I guess they do sort of find value in that, because and the role has changed, and I guess they're a fast growing, they are a startup, but not necessarily, they're coming out of that stage now, and they're kind of they are evolving, and the stage that they are at now is they're not a small business. So it's great testament, really, I think, that they still see value in me as a social media manager, beyond being kind of a competitively priced social media resource. Because I guess when these issues these challenges came about, with actually their channels getting a lot busier, they were happy to to go with my recommendations of getting a full-time community manager, but keeping me on, in a strategic role. So, I guess those two cases probably kind of prove that two quite different businesses are seeing the value of a digital mum.
Sorry about the slightly obtuse questioning. Does anybody have any final questions? We're just coming up to an hour, and I'm aware that we should probably start wrapping it up. So does anybody have any final questions they want to ask? Will they have Karen here to answer them? You asked a question once and twice. All right, great guys. Well, thanks very much. There was some really good questions there, I thought. Oh wait, Ruth is writing something. Shall I give her a chance, or is it more just kind of thanking the client? Okay, unless she has something, I'm going to wrap it up. Okay, brilliant, Ruth. Yeah, that's why I thought it might be. Well, yeah, thanks again to Karen. That was really, really useful, I thought. Kind of running down her own specific experiences, and I thought some of her answers were really, really, really interesting. Yeah, and thanks very much for kind of attending. So yeah, just as a kind of heads up, after this, I'll send the recording of kind of Karen's entire kind of chat from her presentation all the way to her Q&A over, so you can kind of refer back to it. I'll also kind of send over our brochure if anybody needs it, just in case they need a refresh of the associate program and what it involves, etc. Just a kind of FYI, so we actually have our kind of final cohort for June. So this is our final cohort for the next 3 months before we close for the summer and start in September. So the missions are closing tomorrow, and there's a couple of spots available. So if anybody's really, really keen, and this is kind of made them make their mind up that they want to do it, and they want to do it now. Like Karen said, they want to do it sooner rather than later. feel free to get in touch. Because it's June and we know it's summer months, we're offering a kind of one-time discount of £250 off. That's only eligible for our June cohort. And our next available cohort does not start until September, and that cohort is only has 3 spaces left as of right now, because September is a really, really popular month and there's no discount for September. So just an FYI that if you are keen on starting in June or in September, then now is the time to get in touch. And yeah, well, otherwise, thanks very much for attending, everyone. I'll be in touch for the recording. And once again, thanks to Karen for a really great webinar. Yeah, great guys. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Bye bye.